You're tuned in to another episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs by Recruit CRM. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs by Recruit CRM. And today I have Nader Beshara with me. I think if I butchered that name, Nader, apologies.
No, you got it right.
And thanks a million for doing this. Really appreciate it. And I've known Nader for a couple of years now. So this is not a random podcast recording with folks that don't know each other. I know him from our relationship with Recruit CRM. At his previous company, Nader was one of the earliest adopters of Recruit CRM, one of our first 100 customers, and that's how we got to know each other. And now as an entrepreneur, I'd love to share your story with the rest of the world. So, and before we go deep into your current business, Nader, can you tell us your life story? Like, where did you grow up? What was your dream job growing up? And how did you end up in the crazy world of recruitment?
Firstly, Sean, congratulations on all the success you've had with Recruit CRM. It's been a couple of years and I've seen how well you're doing, and it's always inspiring to see someone doing well. My backstory, I suppose, I grew up in Brighton my whole life, spent my whole life here, and I've always wanted to be a recruitment consultant.
And for folks that don't know where Brighton is, that is not true. But for folks that don't know Brighton is, where in the UK is Brighton?
Brighton is in the south coast, so it's about an hour away from London, give or take, awesome. By train.
Cool. And so, what was the dream job growing up outside of the lies about being a recruitment consultant?
No, it wasn't a recruitment consultant. I've always actually wanted to be a race car driver.
Wow.
Yeah, I love cars. I mean, I enjoy Formula One, and it would have been a dream job of mine to actually be a professional race car driver.
Who's your favorite race car driver?
Oh, Lewis Hamilton, of course. My generation. He's, we've grown up watching one of the best.
That's like a cliche, right? Because he always wins, and like everyone's like, that's my favorite race car driver. That's amazing. And so, when did you realize that wasn't happening? Because at some point you realized, right? I'm not going to play football for a Premier League football club or be a race car driver. When did that happen?
Well, I mean, look, I had I grew up with Egyptian parents who will always keep you grounded with your thoughts and your ambitions of becoming a superstar of any sort. They always wanted to keep me in school, doing well at university, and things like that. That was their focus. But I don't know. I knew I'd never really do it. I never actually explored it and committed to it. It's just one of those things I wanted to grow up doing. So, the second thing I've actually always been passionately interested about is business. Growing up, I studied business both at college and university. I read a lot of business books, and I just love a success story, a business success story. So I knew at one point, I suppose, I probably will end up being, a businessman of some sort, or run my own show. So.
And then, what was your first job then growing up? Like first paid job?
First paid job. I grew up in Brighton, which is on the seafront. It's a pebbly seafront with deck chairs. My first paid job was to run up and down the beach and collect the deck chairs. I was on it's like £3 an hour or something like that to run around and do that.
That's cool.
And then I worked on a cafe on the seafront for a little while during summers in between college years.
Got it. And what was your first adult job? Like once college was over, what was sort of like the first job you did?
The first job I did, I was a paralegal. So I studied a law degree with the goal in mind to become a solicitor. And finishing my degree, my first paid job was as a paralegal in a small law firm in Brighton, focusing on family law and criminal law. I did that for about 6 months, gearing up to do my 2 years training to become a solicitor. But I pulled out of that very quickly and went into recruitment.
Got it. Super cool. So Nader, now how did you get into recruitment, right? How did you get that first recruitment job that happened?
So as I mentioned, I was working as a paralegal in this law firm, about to train to become a solicitor, but committing to that and going down that route, it's a lifetime commitment to become a solicitor. Naturally, you have to go through an LPC and various qualifications and training, etc., and work your way up the corporate ladder. However, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I enjoyed the studying part of it. I enjoyed learning about law, but practicing it, it didn't really utilize all of my skills. It really didn't it didn't fit my personality type. I enjoy meeting people, speaking with people, building relationships, being active. In a weird way, I kind of enjoyed the stress of a target-driven environment.
Sure. So you wanted to be in a job where you could interact with people, and when you did something, you could see results immediately.
Precisely.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, how did that first recruitment job happen? Still, like, did you apply? Did someone tell you that you'd be great at this? Like,
to be honest with you, I had a couple of friends that were already in recruitment in this company in Brighton. This very decent company, with a good group of people, different ages, different backgrounds. But I had a few people from my old school that worked in recruitment, and speaking to them, it seemed like what they do day to day, their life outside work, the culture they have, in the workplace, fitted my personality type. And coupled with that, I was also finding out how much they were earning. And on the salary I was on as a paralegal.
What was that back then? And just to share numbers, right? What did you make as a paralegal? 6, 7, 8 years ago?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So as a paralegal, you finish university, you get any role as a paralegal, you're looking at around 17 to 18k a year, 20k a year.
And so this is, again, to the audience, this is 18,000 pounds, which would probably be about $25,000, give or take.
Yeah, roughly that. While I had, friends of mine that did various degrees and went straight into recruitment in this firm in Brighton, and I was speaking to them, and they were earning double that in their first year, earning 40, 50.
And that's annoying, right? Because you're better than some of them. Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't necessarily better than them. They were definitely very good. And when I eventually got into recruitment, I did learn a lot from them. But it was just seeing the disparity between what a young person as a graduate can earn in their first year, and so what I was doing as well. So for me to work my way up to get to 40, 50 would have taken many years of commitment. And I think unless you really, really love that field, unless you have a genuine lifetime passion to become a solicitor, it wasn't fitting for me or my ambitions.
So your love for capital outstripped your love for the law. Right?
That's not true. I still love the law. No, it's not necessarily just that. It's the fact that it was meritocratic. There were still recruiters out there that are on 18, 20k. That was what the basic was. But the opportunity to increase your earning potential based on the amount of work you're willing to put in, based on the amount of resilience you have as a sales individual, that is what kind of piqued my interest, because I knew I could be resilient.
Got it.
I'm very
and how did you
naturally.
And going back to the question again, how did you get that job? Like, did you just call your friends and did you be like, hey, can you introduce me to your boss and get me a job, or did someone reach out to you? Like,
no, to be honest with you, I applied to lots of entry-level recruitment roles. It wasn't hard to get a recruitment role back then.
Okay.
I had a law degree and I was cheap, so everyone wanted to hire me.
Would you say the case is the same today? If someone is fresh out of college with a law degree or any other professional degree and they want to do recruitment, they could probably get a job quickly. Would you say that's accurate or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very easy to get a job entry level. Recruitment, there's loads of companies that would hire graduates.
And do you think that's because it's a hard job and not many people want to do it? Because it's effectively a sales job, and you're getting grinded basically every single day. And if you aren't up for it, it's a pretty depressing job to be in if you're bad at it and you hate picking up the phone and just calling random people.
It's true, but I mean, because as I mentioned earlier, graduates, their salary expectations are a lot lower than experienced recruitment professionals naturally, right? So, and I mean, not to mention any names, but you and I probably know lots of recruitment companies out there that would hire in bulk. They'd hire 10, 15 graduates first 6 months, and then they keep 3 or 4, right? It's like the Hunger Games. So and it's who survives, who's actually going to work out, and they don't know, but they've got the capital to do it. So that's why it's easy to get a job.
And the beautiful thing is the 3 or 4 that do make up for the other 14 or 12 very quickly. Because
I mean, ethically, I don't agree with it, but that's the business model that they use.
Yes, but effectively, if you're charging 20% and your average placement is like 60,000-70,000 pounds for mid-senior type level role, you're making 15. You're effectively making almost their entire year's base compensation every time they make a placement. And if they're good, they're sometimes making 2, 3, 4 placements a month, right? The really good ones, right? Who know their stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when I first started in recruitment, my manager actually said to me, if you last longer than a year, then you might actually have a career in this field because most people don't, right? Most people within their
And you
first year, they
obviously
leave.
you obviously lasted more than 1 year. Do you remember what you made your first full year as a recruiter? First full 12 months or first full calendar year, whatever you remember?
Yes, I do. Roughly. But the thing is, when I started doing contract recruitment, which is slightly
Okay.
different because with extensions and things, it's not like permanent placement. So I think in my first year, I did bill just under 100 grand.
Okay. And how much, but back then what was the payout like? Was it like 25% of what you built, 40% of what you built? How did they pay
What
you?
the commission?
Yeah. The total pay, right? Base pay plus commission.
I think my base pay at the time was around 20 grand or slightly
Okay.
less. And with my commission, I took home about 30, 35 in the
Got
first
it.
year.
But that was still like a 60% bump on what you were doing as a paralegal, right? Like,
well, exactly that. Yeah. As a,
yeah.
35 is what I would have got as a qualified solicitor after 2 or 3 years of training.
Yeah. And so
So to
you
do it in the
smashed
first year was
that.
really good.
And do you think you even needed to go to law school to be the recruiter you are today, or could you have done it after high school?
I probably could have done it straight after high school. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't regret doing my degree by any stretch. It's taught me various things. It's not the avenue I've gone down, but looking back at my university and the the people I studied with, my colleagues and peers at the time, not a single one of them is actually a lawyer right now.
Of course. But would you do it
They all did
again?
other
Like
things.
if you were sent back in time, would you do the 3-4 year law degree again? Or would you just
No,
start working straight up?
I would start working straight away. I would do an apprenticeship scheme. I would try and get into work straight away.
Got it. And is that what you recommend when you like meet younger folks that are asking you for advice? Because now you are that successful older person that has done it before.
I suppose yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, if you really have a desire for a certain profession that requires you to have a particular degree, by all means, you need that degree to get through, right? But I see a lot of people, they finish college, finish school, and they just go to university because they don't know what else to do. So you end up doing 3 or 4 years at university, and you think by the end of it you're going to figure it out, but you don't. You don't.
Yeah.
You're as lost as you were before, just in a bit more debt and a bit more drunk.
As a professional recruiter, and you've been a professional recruiter on, a billable recruiter for more than 5 years, right? Close to between 5 and 10 years. Do you remember what you did in your best year? Like how much did you bill the best year? Can you give us a range? Was it like more than £250,000?
Yes. Yeah.
Was it more than £500,000?
No.
Okay, so between £250,000 and £500,000, that's a decent enough range, right?
Yeah.
I think in the UK, if you're billing £300,000, you're like absolute top tier, right? You're in the top 5%.
Yes. I mean, I was never a top biller though. I was never a top biller in any business I worked for. That wasn't my skill. Just to constantly bill. And I mean, my business partner, Jermaine, like he's always been a top biller. He's been a top biller.
Has Jermaine had a year where he did more than £500,000 in billings? Yeah. So he's the sales machine basically. You're more like the operational guru that's like making sure the engine keeps running and doesn't blow up.
Yeah, I suppose more. Yeah. I mean, we split various responsibilities, but looking in Ingham Jones, we split various responsibilities based on skills, who's good at what, and who owns which part of the organization in terms of running it. But looking at previous businesses, because I've worked with Jermaine at 2 different businesses before we set up Ingham Jones. He's what you'd regard as a top biller. If you look at a mindset of a top biller and how they constantly achieve, he's the guy to speak to about that. Sure, not
and sure. And for the folks who are in the UK and maybe even outside the UK, who are like, okay, like how much does a good recruiter make of their billings? Like, how's that compensation set up? Is it like 20-25% of what you build? So if you build say 400 grand, you make 100 net of base and commissions. Is that a rough accurate figure, or is the percentage higher or lower, would you say?
I mean, every business has its own commission structure. And I've seen some commission structures which, regardless of how much you try and dissect it, it's difficult to figure out what your earnings would be. But if you look at just a generic base model, it's in and about 15 to 20% of your billings is what you'd get as commission.
Got it. And how have you now going down? So you've obviously it's not just you and Jermaine doing this. You've hired a team and built it out. How have you set up the commission structure at your business?
So We've actually set up the commission structure with no threshold.
Okay.
It's very risky. So, for example, the majority of businesses, they will have a threshold in place. So a consultant will have to bill a certain amount, and then once they've done that, whatever they do after it, then they get their 20% cut.
Yeah.
We don't. Whatever placements you make on your first deal, you immediately get your percentage in commission.
And is it the same percent? Is it like 20, 15, 10? Like
yes.
It's which of these?
It's 20%. It's
okay,
20%.
So that's pretty generous, right? Like it's not like you're being cheap on it. It's not like you're saying you'll start from 0, but we give you 10. Or but then you would have the top billers leave because they'd be like, hey, if I'm killing it, I can just go somewhere else and make more money anyway.
Well, the thing is, if you're going to attract someone to join your business, right, and they're already doing well, you have to just offer them a bigger piece of the pie, offer them a commission structure that's more lucrative. So they are incentivized. That's what recruiters are incentivized by. The culture, development, the training, that's all a given nowadays. But eventually, they are looking at their annual earnings. How can they earn more based on what they do?
Right? But aren't you worried about a situation where, say, you're paying someone a 25K base, and they only bill like 20K, and you're literally paying them 4K on commission for that, but they probably
and that's why businesses have thresholds, right? Because they mitigate that risk. So to answer your question, am I worried about that? Yeah. I'd be lying to say I'm not. But at the same time, if we create a performance culture, if we create a target driven culture, and everyone around you is succeeding, and we have the right infrastructure in place, the right roles, the right account management, the right people in the right seats, in theory that shouldn't happen. And that's why we went for it.
And if it does, you'd probably have to let some people go, right? If someone's just not performing after like a year in recruitment, they're probably never going to like really perform.
I mean, obviously in any recruitment business, that's the case. After a year, if no one's performing.
Have you had to do that already? Like in your new business, have you ever had to like let someone go because they just weren't panning out? No, not yet. That's good.
No, well, no, not yet, and hopefully not ever, because when we came to hire, it was a very stringent process, and we did interview so many people, and we were very careful because the business is all about the people inside it, right, and the people that will help it grow. So we were really careful. We really did our due diligence, and we wanted to hire people that that were they're winners, right? They're not going to fail. Failure is not part of their DNA, and we knew that they can fit in and they will progress and they will do well.
And a few questions about you coming into this business, right? So what, if you were a reasonably successful professional, right, making, I'm guessing, between 50 and 100,000 pounds, right? Is that an accurate range of what you would probably be making as a professional?
As a consultant, you mean?
As a consultant, but by yourself. But when you were working at a business, what made you sort of say, hey, you know what, I'm going to scrap this and I'm going to just do an entire company myself. I'm going to set up a company. I'm going to set up this office, get the interior done, hire people, make sure they're paid. It's a pain, right? Like it's not, a lot of it sucks, right? Yeah. Hopefully you'll make a lot more money, but what went through your head where you were like, okay, we're just going to start this by ourselves? 1, 2, how much money did you actually, or between the two of you, did you guys put aside to like get this started?
So to answer the first question, obviously it's a lot of work and a lot of commitment, but the driving force behind it was to try and build something that was forward thinking, that was a bit more advanced in its infrastructure, right? So it was during the pandemic that it was quite apparent that not many businesses were built or designed to withstand any sort of adaptation in the market. They were just doing things the way they always used to. And there, I was interviewing in a lot of places, and going in there in a manager role, they give you the perception that you do have full reins to build a team and create a culture. That's so difficult to do in a business where they've already built a culture before you got there. So although that those kind of opportunities were promised, I knew there was no way I could go into an existing business and build the culture the way that I envisioned it, right? And Jermaine was like-minded. He wanted to build a culture, a performance-based culture, a culture that's rewarding, that's progressive. And, if you look at the values that we set for the business, we did this before we set it up. We thought, what are the 3 key things that we are going to hire, develop, fire around?
Sure, but didn't you have financial goals as well? Like, because most people like me, I know I started this business to make a lot of money, right? Like, I started my software company because I was like, hey, I want to make a lot of money, and this is the way I can do it by owning a successful global business.
Yeah.
And so was that also like a part of the formula of why you started a business? You thought you could maybe take home 2x or 3x as much if you did it right?
To be honest with you, not really. No, because if we wanted to just earn as much money as possible, we wouldn't have hired anyone. We wouldn't have built a team. We would have worked just Jermaine and I as independent consultants and kept all the money, right? When you invest into a business, like you said, you're invested into the premise, into the tech, into the people, into the legal side of things, the HR side of things. So you're investing a lot of your money back. And you don't necessarily see the reward of that or the return on that straight away for a while. Exactly. So we thought that the money will come. It will be a byproduct of any success we have in building the business. So that was the goal, really. The goal initially was to build the business.
And Nader, so on the second question, right? So did you guys have a budget that you set when you started this, that this is the most amount of money we're willing to lose in the first 5 or 6 months before we jump ship if it doesn't work out? And it's obviously worked out, which is why you guys are doing it. But was that a strategy, or was it like, hey, we're going to keep doing this till we're either successful or we get wiped out?
To be honest with you, you can ask Jermaine that question, because we did have a budget, and Jermaine, we did have a budget set up with. But me personally, I didn't have a budget. I was willing to lose it all. That was it. I said to myself, I'm not going to go back.
Bad advice.
It's bad advice. Exactly. And I don't recommend it. But mentally, I wasn't in the mind frame of, right, if this doesn't work, or if I ran out of money at this point, I'm going to go back to working, in a recruitment business for someone else. My point was, it's going to work because I have no choice. I'm willing to drive myself into the ground until it works.
And at what point did you decide that you needed to hire more people? Because most recruitment businesses, right, if you're 2 or 3 partners starting out, especially if you're not a solo recruiter and you're a bunch of partners starting out, folks wait for like a year or so till they have a bunch of clients, a bunch of recs, and they're like, we're making a lot of money now, and we should like start stepping back from certain things and scale up. But you guys have started hiring pretty early on, right? I think, when did you start interviewing the first few employees? How many months in?
6 months in.
Yeah, which is very, very, very early, right? You're literally in. And do you remember how much you'd billed before you started recruiting?
Yeah, well, we hit our target. We hit our annual target in 6 months.
Oh wow!
So
we expected. If you don't mind me asking, what was the annual target you set for yourself when the both of you started?
I can't disclose that, Sean. I can't.
Got it. Was it more than 100K?
Kill me on my counter bill.
Was it more than 100K or less than 100K?
It was more.
Okay, good. And now that you broke whatever beyond 100K your target was, and you guys started hiring people, did you think about hiring freshers, like people fresh out of college, fresh graduates, or were you like, no, we're only going to hire people that have already done this successfully, even if it costs like 30 or 40K instead of 15 or 18? Is that what you guys did?
Absolutely, yeah, the latter. We wanted to hire experienced professionals. We knew it was going to cost a lot more. It's going to cost a lot more in the basic to try and win them over, but also in the commission structure and the benefits that we offer. But that's only because we weren't built to bring on graduates and make sure they succeed. And most companies aren't, unless they have a learning and development function. Regardless of what they say to you, they can't do it. Right? They don't have the capacity to do
it. And like, is any of the new hires you've made, because now you're a team of 5 or 6 people, is that accurate? Something like
6.
Yeah, 6. Is any of the other 4 people that you've hired now billing more than you or Jermaine?
No,
not yet. Not because that's the goal, right? As business owners, eventually at some point, someone you hire needs to start billing more than you, because that's literally.
That would be great.
Yeah. Because you're managing the business, right? Because then you manage the business and they actually execute. Is there a goal set for that too? Like, hey, by hopefully in the year 2022, we get to a quarter where at least one person starts billing more than the both of you, or something like that? Or do you not care about that?
No, we do, but I think it will come with scale. I think naturally as we scale, both mine and Jermaine's roles will not be, as heavy on the billing front. And naturally be either more operational or team management. But I think that the fact of the matter is we enjoy billing. We enjoy recruitment. We enjoy the full life cycle of it. We're both 360 consultants. So we like to, the develop new relationships, win new relationships, and deliver on the work and see the fruits of our labor and see the product of our success. So we'll always be 360 consultants. And I mean, we don't know whether next year or the year after we will have a team whereby there are better and stronger billers in the business.
Sure.
But there's definitely an opportunity and platform for people to do that.
And now for people that are like, no, the whole entrepreneurship, it's hard and you're probably not going to make money for 3 or 4 years. Would it be accurate to say that you and Jermaine, outside of just taking maybe the same salary you were taking, base salary you were taking before, the business will turn a profit this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we've not hired above our means. We've always, kept in line. So it's always profitable. So
you're going to be a profitable company that's paying taxes and so on. Would it be accurate? And you don't have to give me exact numbers, but would it be accurate to say that like this year, this is your first full year doing?
Yes. Last week was our first full year.
Brilliant. And in your first full year between you and Jermaine, did you end up taking home more money than you had as professional consultants before that, or less?
No, less.
Okay. And is that because you just reinvested a bunch of money into the business, or because, okay, so it wasn't because you weren't able to generate the revenue, it was just because you hiring more people and putting it back?
Yes. Yeah. We kept, we still keep a lot in the business.
Got it.
I think naturally you have to as a reserve.
Yeah. So it's more of a choice that you haven't taken home more versus we just didn't make as much money and hopefully we'll make it later. Right. Yeah. Which is a good place to be. And Nader, now to the flip side, what's the shittiest part about running your own business versus working at someone's business?
Accounting.
And I imagine you're the only person doing it because you said Jermaine and you split responsibility. So he's doing the fun stuff.
To be honest with you, he does help me out with it a lot. He's not necessarily just doing the fun stuff. We both look after the accounting side of things, but it's just the most stressful part because it's a slippery slope from getting things right, getting things wrong.
Oh, and you still have to do taxes and stuff, right? Which is even worse.
That's never fun.
You need to outsource all of that as soon as possible before you buy a rope and hang yourself because it's torture.
No, we do. We actually have a very good accountant, and obviously they take care of most of it. But I still like to understand and keep an eye on things because,
of course, because you can't be that
with us, doesn't it?
Yeah, because you can't be that entrepreneur that doesn't know how much money is in the bank or because that's just ridiculous, right? And okay, so the worst part about your business accounting. Please don't give me the cliche answer for this question, but what's the best part about running your business? Please don't tell me it's the people or talking to people or something like that. But what's the best part about your business outside of meeting new people and talking to them?
To be honest with you, I suppose it's watching growth, within the business, watching it, month on month, work towards vision that you set yourself. Seeing that is the best part because you can control most elements of it, and I suppose that control and having the oversight to enable that's probably the best part.
And what are the sort of things that you didn't expect you'd have to do in this business that you ended up having to do? Like going in, right, you have a certain expectation that these are the things that are going to be easy, these are the things that are going to be hard. So what's something that you didn't expect to do that you had to start doing?
Well, I didn't expect to do so much of it, and that's probably IT and admin. I'm not like you, Sean. I'm not a tech guy. So when there was an issue in the first 4 months, I remember Jermaine and I looked at each other and we're like, well, neither of us are cut out to this. Let's bring in someone who can help. And you look around and there's no one there because it's just us two. So you have to figure it out. And that's one thing I didn't expect to do. Have to learn how to do all of these things.
Why is your website not working? Stuff like
exactly.
That.
Yeah. So that's one thing I didn't expect to have to do so constantly.
It's torture. And what are the growth plans for the next year or two, right? So when you look at your business and you have 4 good people now you've hired, it's you and your partner. Do you want to basically just be like 6, 7, 8 people and like make sure everyone's billing more over the next couple of years, or do you want this to be a 20-person company?
20, maybe even more. We haven't put a ceiling on it. We haven't put a cap on the growth. It's not like we want to get to 10 then stop. If we continue to progress and everyone in the team continues to progress, then naturally that will enable and fuel the growth. So I don't know how big it can get, but I'm certainly not putting any limitations on it.
And when do you expect to break your first $1 million in revenues?
Pretty soon. I'll text you once we do.
Done. But you don't have like a date where you're like 2022 or 2023 is the year we have to do 1 million.
We do have a date, but again, I'm not sure. I want to jinx it.
Don't jinx it. But like, and you don't have to tell me the date. But do you have like the date written somewhere on your office where every time someone walks in, they're like, "This is where we got to get," or something like that?
No,
not that
hardcore. No, it's not that hardcore. It's not that hardcore. We did run through it on the strategy meeting last week, but it's not cemented or engraved in the wall just yet.
Yeah. Cool. And now there's a lot of people starting new businesses, right? And watching this, and they're like, "Hey, maybe I can do this too," or maybe I should go get a job in recruitment. What's your advice to someone that's currently working either, in-house at a corporate as a recruiter, or someone working at a recruitment business, a headhunting firm, and they're like, "Hey, maybe I want to start my own business." What advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, the first bit of advice, I suppose, is make sure you have a supportive family unit behind you, whether it's a partner, that you live with, a wife, husband, whatever. Make sure they're fully behind you, because you'll need their support, certainly for the first 6 months, emotionally, mentally, maybe even financially at some points, but you need their understanding on that. And internally, also make sure you have a support function with a business partner of some sort. I mean, I can't imagine doing this on my own. I think whoever sets up on their own, and I know a couple of sole entrepreneurs that have built businesses are just way better than I am, because you need someone right next to you.
Or they're crazy, right?
Or they're crazy, yeah. Basically.
I'm sure you've met quite a few of those too, right? Like, there's something wacky about the folks that are like, they're either brilliant, or there's something a little wacky about folks that are just doing it alone for like 10 years and build out a small team.
There is exactly that. Maybe a bit of both, really. But a good partner is obviously so paramount.
And we probably talked about this earlier in this call, but if you were put in a time machine, sent back to meet your 20-year-old self, and you only had 5 minutes to give yourself advice, what advice would you give yourself?
It would probably just not to look so much around you and what other people are doing. Just try and focus on yourself and just getting better every day. I think my 20-year-old self and lots of people who look back would just say they tried to mimic people in their peer group and follow their route, but you've got your own individual path and just stay focused on that.
Got it. And there you have it, guys. Get better every single day. That's Nader. And thanks for doing this, Nader. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Sean. It was a pleasure.
And that's all for today's episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs. Like and follow us if you liked today's episode and want to hear more stories from the world of recruitment.